This wasn't just a comeback, it was a line in the sand for the entire NFC West, and the uncomfortable truth nobody wants to say out loud is that this game ripped the masks off everyone involved, because when you're down by numbers that say history is dead against you, and the cameras are waiting for collapse, what comes out of your mouth afterward matters just as much as what happened on the field. And Sam Darnold didn't just talk like a quarterback who survived chaos, he talked like a quarterback who knows the narrative has been chasing him for years and finally snapped back. Because when you hear him calmly say one play at a time after staring down a deficit that has buried every Seahawk team before him, that's not cliche, that's defiance dressed up as humility. And the reason this postgame blew up instantly is because people expected relief, they expected shock, they expected disbelief, and instead they got composure bordering on unsettling confidence, the kind that makes critics nervous, the kind that forces the league to revisit old takes, the kind that makes fans wonder if the story they've been telling themselves about this quarterback might be outdated. Because this wasn't desperation football, this was belief football, and belief is dangerous when it starts spreading through a locker room that just watched the impossible happen in real time. What made this even more explosive is that while Seattle was celebrating a playoff berth that felt stolen from fate itself, the other side of the stadium was processing a collapse that wasn't supposed to happen, and hovering over all of it were comments, decisions, and quiet admissions that revealed far more than the box score ever could, because post-game interviews are where the truth leaks out when adrenaline hasn't cooled and scripts haven't been sanitized yet, and this one was dripping with it from every angle. What happened was simple on paper and nuclear in reality. Seattle erased a massive fourth-quarter deficit, clinched a playoff spot, topped the Rams in a game that instantly became legend, and did it with decisions that screamed conviction rather than caution, from two-point conversions to overtime aggression, all while players and coaches openly addressed adversity, mistakes, and the mental strain of a short week under pressure. And that's why this moment detonated across the sports world. If you're enjoying this kind of unfiltered breakdown and you want more coverage that doesn't sugarcoat what athletes actually say when the lights are hottest, make sure you subscribe to the channel and tap that like button, because moments like this don't come around often, and when they do, you don't want to miss how they reshape the league conversation. Darnold's words matter because they quietly dismantle the idea that this was luck or chaos. When he talks about experience and coming out on the other side of rough stretches, he's not just reflecting, he's reframing his career in real time. He's telling you this wasn't a fluke but a culmination. And when he credits his teammates for making him look good, that's not deflection, that's leadership signaling trust. And trust is exactly what allows a quarterback to keep letting it rip when everything says play it safe. Then there's the moment that made everyone do a double take, the so-called broken play that turned into a two-point conversion. Because when Darnold says they talked about the ball getting tipped and Charbonnet picking it up, it sounds almost absurd until you realize what he's actually revealing, which is preparation bordering on obsession. And whether you believe it unfolded exactly that way or not, the confidence to say it publicly sends a message that this team felt in control even inside the chaos, and that rattles opponents more than any highlight ever could. Mike Macdonald doubled down on that tone without even trying to hide it, because when a head coach looks at a tie scenario and openly says he felt great about the play and trusted his guys, that's not bravado, that's philosophy, and it tells you everything about how this team sees itself now. Not as survivors, not as underdogs clinging to a seed, but as aggressors who would rather decide their fate than let it drift. His comments about the atmosphere and the 12s weren't fluff either. They were context, because a stadium that doesn't empty during adversity becomes a weapon. And Macdonald made it clear the team fed off that refusal to quit, which ties directly into his repeated emphasis on resiliency and character, words coaches use carefully when they know they've just passed a defining test. And then the lens shifts to the other locker room, where Puka Nacua's interview adds a completely different kind of tension, because suddenly the conversation isn't about play calls or conversions, it's about distractions, mistakes, and accountability. And when a player openly acknowledges noise without calling it a distraction, that's a tightrope walk between honesty and damage control, especially when extension talk is hovering in the air. Nacua's admission that there's a time and place for comments, that some things should stay in the locker room, and that he doesn't want to distract teammates on a short week, isn't just reflection, it's recognition that words can ripple through preparation in ways that don't show up until it's too late. And in a game decided by execution under pressure, those ripples matter. The emotional weight of blowing a 16-point fourth-quarter lead came through not as anger but as frustration with missed opportunities, and that's telling because it suggests the Rams see this less as being beaten and more as letting control slip, which is often harder to digest and longer to recover from. What makes this entire postgame so combustible is how cleanly the narratives collide. Seattle talking about belief, preparation, and finishing together. Los Angeles talking about lessons, timing, and moments that got away. And sitting right in the middle is a quarterback whose calm dismantles the chaos everyone else sees. Revisiting Darnold's comments again and again, you start to hear the subtext that this team doesn't panic anymore, that adversity doesn't trigger scrambling but focus, and that is exactly what scares playoff opponents who were hoping this was a feel-good story with an expiration date. Macdonald's confidence in going for two, his clarity that the decision was made before the drive even unfolded, reinforces that this wasn't impulse, it was intent, and intent is what separates teams that sneak into the postseason from teams that announce themselves. Even the way both sides talk about rest, the mini-bye, and getting back to work reveals where their heads are. Seattle sounding energized, Los Angeles sounding reflective, and that contrast lingers long after the final whistle. This wasn't just an instant classic because of the scoreline, it was instant classic because it exposed belief systems, because it forced players and coaches to articulate who they think they are under pressure, and because it reignited debates about quarterbacks, coaching aggression, and locker room chemistry without anyone ever needing to raise their voice. The strongest claims keep echoing because they weren't shouted, they were stated calmly, and calm confidence after chaos is the most provocative thing of all because it dares everyone watching to decide whether this was the peak of a miracle or the beginning of a problem for the rest of the NFC.